Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's reading vlog. So I just got done filming my 2020 most anticipated releases. I realized that I forgot to make that video when I did my week-long videos of like 2020 videos and 2019 wrap-up stuff, but that's okay because you know what? Most of these aren't out yet. Sorry, my lunch is getting ready. But I still was bummed because 3 of the books on my list came out today, but that's okay. I had a horrible night's sleep last night. I coughed all night. I maybe got like 2 hours solid of sleep. So I'm at home again today. I slept until probably 10 because I took some cold medicine and went back to bed at probably like 6 a.m., which sucked. But I'm excited for this week to happen. There's not a ton going on, which is great because I need a week to ease me back into life. But I was able to get back to the gym yesterday. It was my 6th month checkup with my program that I did, which was really great. And I want to get some reading done. So my goal this week is actually to get through the Fiery Cross, which I think is pretty possible. I've been reading about 100 pages of it a day, so we'll see. Also this week I started Uprooted, which is the book that I'm reading with you guys. It's kind of rough. I remembered when I started it that Murphy hated this book and DNF'd it at a certain place. And I understand. There's this dragon who, he's a man, but he's called the dragon, and he has magic powers. He's been alive for years. And every 10 years, he takes a maiden, she stays and lives with him, and then he lets her go at the end of the 10 years. And supposedly doesn't do anything to them or hurt them or rape them or do anything. But our girl, Agnieszka, she gets taken believedly by mistake because she doesn't have any talents and she's not beautiful or any of these things. And he starts teaching her magic, but he's an asshole about it and he's a jerk. And there's a really awkward scene where she almost gets raped and he blames her for it. And I'm just not loving it. And I talked with Murphy about it and she's reminding me of all the things she hated about it. So we'll see. Also, I want to start Ruined this week. And I'm reading What I Did for the Duke, which I may also DNF. It's one of the first historical romances I've ever straight up just wanted to DNF. Besides when I read an OG romance that was really bad. So that's the state of affairs with me right now. I'll check back in when I have a little more to say about some of these. But that's where it's sitting right now. Hey everybody, it is now Thursday, and I've been doing really great with reading this week, which is awesome. I love when I have a good, strong week. So I ended up starting Ruined yesterday, and I read almost half of it. So this is about a girl named Emelina, who her parents were killed by this warring country, because her country, the people are called the Ruined, and they have different powers, and the other countries are slowly wiping them out. And so her parents got killed by this other kingdom in order to prove themselves to the kingdom of Lyra, and more specifically, the princess of that country, her name was Mary, killed Emelina's father. And to win the hand of Prince Casimir. Well, Emmeline, we see in the first chapter that she kills Princess Mary and takes over. So when she arrives in Lyra, she marries Prince Casimir, and her plan is to get close enough to kill the king and queen and then to kill him. And then the Ruined are going to try to take back over their country. And it's very brutal so far for a YA. This is by Amy Tantira, and this is one of the books that is on my 2020 reading list that I'm trying to get through, and it's great. I mean, it's kind of trending towards just like a 3.5 right now, just because so far everything is kind of like been there, done that. Like, I've read it before, but it's still a very quick read. It's very fun. It's like cotton candy. It just goes quickly. And so I don't really have anything bad to say about this point. I'm actually probably going to try to finish it tonight or tomorrow maybe, because it's going really quickly. Also, I've made a lot of progress on the Fiery Cross. I'm on page 685, which, I mean, I still have 300 pages to go, but the last 2 days I've read like 150 pages each. So I'm hoping to finish this week between like today and tomorrow, or today and Saturday, to finish the Fiery Cross as well. It's going really good. I love it so much. It hurts me. It gives me joy. As always, I'm taking like tons of notes in these. I just love the language of Diana Gabaldon. You've heard this all before, but I'm telling y'all again. The only disappointment so far is I'm reading Uprooted and I'm not liking it. I said I would give it another check-in day, which, if you don't know, if you do buddy reads with me, we check in on Wednesdays and Saturdays, and it usually takes us either 2 or 3 weeks to read a book, and reading a certain amount of chapters every day. And I'm not liking it. The dragon, who is this wizard, he takes a girl like every 10 years, and we don't know why, but this time Agnieszka was taken, and she is a really annoying character to read from her point of view because she's whiny and doesn't have like any agency, and it's just not the character I want to read about when I'm reading about these other amazing female characters like Brianna from Outlander, or even Emelina from Ruined. Like, she's a tough cookie, and this girl I just don't like. So also, the dragon is just an ass. Like, he's just horrible, and I know that he's gonna be a love interest for her. I don't care if people say it's not. I've looked ahead. I know that he is. And he's such an asshole that I don't want him to be with her. And so it's really hard for me to get on board with any of it. So, anyway. Yeah, not having a great time with this one. But everything else is going good. And I'm having a great time. So, I'll check back in with you at the end of the week here. Yeah, I'll do that. Hey guys. Oh boy, what a week it's been. It's been super busy, but I've managed to get a lot of reading done this week, and it was really fun. A few DNFs we have to talk about, but also some books that are going really well. So let's start off with, I finished The Fiery Cross, which I actually ended up reading in like 8 days, which I think is the quickest I've read one of these books so far, which is crazy because this is the biggest one so far. But this is book 5 in the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. This book, oh, it's so floppy, it's hard to hold it, was amazing. I still think that, as of now, Drums of Autumn is my favorite one, even upon reread. But this book was by no means lacking. It is just like even more developing these people we love. Of course, there'll be a dedicated review for this, but it won't be up until March probably, the way that I'm reviewing these. The Outlander, the Voyager book review just went up on Saturday. So if you're wanting an in-depth spoiler review and chat for that book, please check that out. This one won't go up for a while, but of course it was 5 stars. I, again, had so many emotions when reading this, and it brought out such feelings of love and devotion for these people. And one of the things I'll say that, like, this isn't a spoiler, but that I realized about this one is that it's the first book in the series where all of our, like, main people that we've been following previously are finally in the same place together, and there's no like conflict in that regards, because in the previous books, every single one of them, a lot of the conflict just has to do with keeping us together or getting to each other. And this is the first one where we're all together in the same place, in the same time, and we're dealing with things. And that was a really cool to get to see the dynamic between what I see as the 4 main characters of this interplay together. Also, something that I found out, so in each book she adds a new point of view to Claire's point of view, and I thought that in each book she adds one more, and in this one there wasn't a new one, there was just the 4 main ones. But I know that in the 6th one that there's 6, so maybe she adds 2 in that one. We'll see. But this was great. As you can tell, I took tons of notes, as always. I write on almost every page of these, and I loved it. All right, then I'll talk about the other one I finished, because the rest of these I either DNF'd or I'm in the middle of them. I read in the last 2 days the Krynar Chronicle trilogy about Mia and Coram, and this one is by Anna Zares. So Anna Zares, I've read a few of her books last year, I think in October or November, specifically her Twist Me trilogy, which was a kidnap romance, like not a like sweet, like, oh, we kidnapped because the person was like paid to do it and then fell in love, or kidnapped by, like anything you can think of that would be a legitimate reason for kidnapping. That was not. It was an older man. He kidnapped an 18-year-old and kept her. And I was twistedly into it because I'd never read something like it before, and I wanted to see like where it was going to go, but it was straight up like how like Stockholm Syndrome would happen. And it was interesting, but it was hard to read. This series, which the Krynar Chronicles, I guess, is written by a lot of different authors, and it all involves these creatures called the Ks, who they are a species that pre-existed us out in space, and they actually like created humans. It's very interesting. And this one involves this K named Coram, who is a very high-ranking K, and he's like, they have invaded Earth for like 5 years. They've been here or so, and they mostly leave us alone. But they're also like kind of advanced people. They're seen as like vampires because they can ingest human blood, but they don't like need to for survival. It's a very interesting people, and I'm sure in other stories they really more go into that. This one was really about Kay. Coram meets Mia, and he's instantly in love with her, and he says he's never met someone who he felt that connected with in all of his 2,000 years. And it has a little bit of that, of what I experienced in her Twist Me trilogy, where he doesn't give her a lot of choices in it. Like, he's not the same kind of man that I read about in, I think it's Nick was his name. Was his name Nick? I can't remember. But he's not the same kind of horrible man that guy was, because he's just a different creature, and so he thinks about things differently. But no matter what Mia says or what she does, he's like, we're meant to be together and we're going to be together. And so it was always like right on the line for me. And he definitely makes a lot of choices where he takes away her free will. And so he's constantly like, I love you. I love you so much. I'll do anything you want. And it's very clear to me that it's almost a gaslighting situation, and she can't leave. Like, there's nowhere she can go to get away from him. And that's the aspect that reminded me of the kidnapping series I read. It's just wrapped up in a little bit prettier package. So I read the whole trilogy because, again, I have this weird personality, though, that even if I completely despise the people, I like continue on with it. And I liked that Mia never like stopped wanting this to be at least equal ground. Like, even when she kind of gives in and is like in love with this person who has kept her almost captive. Not quite, but it is. She is always still like, I need to be like an equal to you if we're going to do this. Like, even if you get to make all the decisions or whatever, like, I need you to care about what my opinion is. And anyway, it's interesting. But I ended up only giving it 3 stars because I just can't suggest it to other people. It's the same way I felt about the Twist Me trilogy. I gave all of those 3 stars too. Because if you're into this, if it's the kind of thing you like, I think you'll like it. Because it was really quick to read and it was really interesting. And I'm interested in the other Krynar stories, because I think if I read one not by Anna Zares, it wouldn't be that kind of character. Because I'm interested in the kind of like alien that they are and like their planet and where they're from. I just didn't like Coram that much, so I'm interested enough to try another one, and so that's why I would give it a 3-star. So then, a couple DNFs. I unfortunately had to DNF Uprooted by Naomi Novik. This is the book that was picked as our like group read, our buddy read, and I think almost everyone's DNF'd it except for like one person read it, but they didn't really like it, and they said they probably could have DNF'd it if they just hadn't got through it so quickly. But I don't want to explain the premise of this again. I think I already did that. But basically, I found out, and I talked with Murphy and my friend Joe, who Joe finished it, Murphy didn't. She DNF'd for the same reason that I am, and that is that I found out that the dragon in this, who he's called the dragon, it means he's he's not an actual dragon. He's a person who's a wizard who is super old and always takes this girl from this village to live with him, and then he protects the village, and it's supposed to be kind of like a Beauty and the Beast thing or whatever, but I know that these two are supposed to be together, and everyone kept telling me, oh, it's not looking like it's a romance, and I'm like, yes, it is. Queen of romance right here. This is a romance happening, and I don't like it. For the same reason that in my recent favorite romance tropes, I said that in a hate-to-love situation, I don't like either character, specifically the man, to be cruel to the person that they have a hate with that will turn into a love. I just can't get on board for it. Don't push it down my throat. It's not happening. And this dragon calls her stupid. He demeans her. He doesn't respect her. He doesn't protect her. He doesn't do any of the things that normally, if there's a hate to love, but that man, like, he really does respect her and thinks she's great. They just don't get along. And then it grows into something more as they spend time together. That's completely different than him actually being cruel to her. And then because he's hot, they'll start fucking later on. Like, I'm just not into it. So I had to DNF it. Also, I have no idea where the story was going. Also, Ananeshka, she just started being super powered for no reason that I could see. And I was just done with it. I have too many other great books to read to worry about it. Next, I DNF'd a historical romance, which doesn't happen very often. And I think that I'm not in the mood for this particular story, and I'm sad about it because this came up as an age gap romance for historical romance, and there's not even really anything happening with that. Like, it's hard to make the age gap a thing in historical romance because it's not taboo then. Like, it was literally how it was done. But this one was about this guy named Alexander Moncrief and this girl named Genevieve, and Alexander was basically cuckolded by Genevieve's brother, and so he decides, as his revenge, he's going to make Genevieve fall in love with him and then leave her. Like, that's the premise. So he's going to woo her, sleep with her, and then instead of marry her, just like walk away. Which, besides being like a super shitty thing to do just in general, and we've seen it happen in other places as well, I just didn't like him. I didn't empathize with him or was on his side for like why he would come up with this plan. And I just didn't like him. And I didn't like Genevieve that much either. She's in love with like her best guy friend, and he's going to marry her friend. And so she's really not interested in Alexander anyway. And I just wasn't into it. So I had to DNF this one as well. So then, 2 books that I'm in the middle of right now. I started Ruined this week. This was my pick from my TBR game for a series I wanted to start because I have this whole trilogy. This book, I think I talked about what it's about. Maybe I didn't. I think I did because I remember reading it. I haven't read any more of it because I finished The Fiery Cross and I read the Kreenar Chronicles and I was DNFing these. But this is going to be my focus for this week. I read all of this in basically like 2 sittings. So I know I can finish it really quick when I get the chance. Nothing more has happened. Still liking it. Still interested in the premise. I just haven't had time to continue. But a book I did start yesterday and I'm very excited to read is the How Rory Thorne Destroyed the Multiverse by Kay Easton. So what I'm discovering when I started to read this is that it is a mixture of like fairy tale retellings. And the first one that's being retold is like, it starts with like a Sleeping Beauty retelling where like these fairies, which no one thinks fairies exist anymore. They think they are distinct. The first girl is born to the family in 200 years. And when a girl is the firstborn, they're supposed to have this celebration where they invite all the fairies. And so it starts the way Sleeping Beauty does, with the fairies get invited, but they don't invite the evil fairy, and then the evil fairy curses Rory, but it's not actually a curse. What actually has been the curse was that they didn't have a girl for 200 years because they didn't treat their women right, is kind of how I'm taking it. And so she's the first girl born, and the fairy curses her, but she curses her to never be happy with mediocrity and to always want like the best for herself. And it's supposed to be a curse because women don't really get that. And so it's interesting too, because this is futuristic and like there's space travel and different galaxies, but they're still dressing in like medieval times. So it's a weird like mixture of things. And then the good fairy, like some of her gifts is she gets the gift to always see truth, to know truth when she hears it or sees it. Because in this one, there's 13 fairies instead of like 3. So she gets a lot of gifts. And the evil fairy who, you know, gives her the curse, I keep using these, she curses her because she just wants more for the women in it. But then the other person also says, like, you will always, like, look for the best way to handle things. And so she's just given these really amazing gifts. And so the point of the story I'm at right now, I'm only 40 pages in, but I am so hooked. And I'm very excited to read this. This is just such a random book that I walked by this at Barnes & Noble. I've never heard a single person talk about it, but I'm so into it. I love it. I love that it's like fairy tale and science fiction tropes mixed together, and I think it's going to be so good. Like, the check that the author's writing me, I hope she can cash it in, because I'm so fascinated by how it's going. And so far, we've only had like one chapter that's from Rory's point of view, and she's still only like 8 years old, because they have her like name day, which is when all the stuff happens, and then they've had like a chapter when she was a little kid and something really bad happens when she's 8 years old. And then we're in the point of view of the palace vizier, whose name is Rupert. And so I don't know which direction this story is going yet from that, but I'm so into it. I'm loving it. So that's everything I've been reading this week. Sorry, this clip was really long, but I didn't have time to do other clips this week, and I actually read a lot and DNF'd a lot, and it was great. So I put up new videos every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday, and you can watch some more of them right now. Thank you so much for watching.